Students, we'll talk about the second broad category of our access protocols on the MAC sublayer. Students, this category is called the controlled access protocols. And the reason we call it the controlled access protocols is because in this particular case, the stations need to consult each other to find out which station has got the right to send. Students, in this case, a station cannot send unless it is authorized by other stations. Students, there are three controlled access methods that we're going to be talking about. The first one is called reservation, the second one is called polling, and the third one is called token passing. Students, the first method of controlled access is the reservation. Students, in this particular case, a station that needs to send some data, it actually needs to make a reservation before it sends the data. Students, once again, we divide the time into different intervals or time slots, and our reservation frame precedes the actual data whenever a station needs to send something. Students, as you can see in the slide, and as I told you in the reservation method, a station needs to make a reservation before it can use the shared medium or send anything. Students, if there are n stations, capital N stations in our system, let's suppose we have got n stations, then we will have n exactly the same or n number of mini slots that are allocated in the reservation frame. तो हर डेटा फ्रेम से पहले आपके पास एक रिजर्वेशन फ्रेम होगा जिसमें उतनी ही मिनी स्लॉट्स होंगी जितने के आपके पास उस पर्टिकुलर नेटवर्क के अंदर स्टेशंस हैं that are sharing that particular medium and the ones that are interested in sending their data. In this case, the first one is our reservation frame. As you can see, in this case, our bits for station number 1, station number 3, and station number 4 are set to ones, which means that in this reservation frame, these three systems are the ones who want to send the data. After that, this is followed by the data station 1's data for station number 3, and data for station number 4. And after that, we send another reservation frame. This time, only station 1 has got data to send. All the other stations have got nothing to send. So this is followed by the data for station 1. After that, we have got another reservation frame, and this time none of the stations has got anything to send. So students, the basic concept of the reservation method of controlled access is that a reservation frame, it actually precedes the actual data frames, and the different stations who want to use the shared medium, they make reservations only after the reservation is made in the form of mini slots in this reservation frame can they send the data onto the shared medium. Students, second method of the controlled access is called polling. Students, in the case of polling, we have got a primary station. In every shared medium, we have got a primary station, the boss station, and we have got the secondary stations. Students, only one station can be designated as a primary station. All the other stations are the secondary stations. Students, in this method of polling, what we do is we actually discuss or take permission from the primary station before we need to send some data onto the transmission medium or the shared medium. Students, even if the data is destined for one of the secondary stations, even then the primary station has to authorize this transmission, otherwise the data cannot be sent. Students, as I told you, the primary device actually controls the link in this particular case, and all the other devices, which are the secondary devices, they follow the primary's instructions. So students, as you can see on the slide, I told you that in the case of polling, it is completely up to the primary device to determine which device is allowed to use the channel or the shared medium at a given time. So students, आपकी जो primary device है, that is going to always be the initiator of the transmission or sending the data or a session in the case of polling as a controlled access method. Students, the technique that we use is what you're looking at on your slide. The technique that we use in the case of polling to avoid collisions is called select and poll. So students, in the first case, as you can see, we have got a primary, and the first example is of the select function. Students, this function is used whenever the primary device has something to send to the other secondary devices. Students, yaad rakhiyega कि primary controls the link. So students, in this case, if the primary is neither sending nor receiving the data, then by default the primary knows that the link is available, it's idle, and it can be used. So if the primary has got something to send, the primary device sends it. Students, the only problem is that the primary device would not know whether the target device is prepared to receive or not. And students, for this particular reason, before the primary sends any data, it creates and transmits a select frame. Students, this select frame, it actually contains the address. One field in this frame contains the address of the intended secondary. So it tells, for example, in this case, although the system A or station A receives this transmission or select frame, as well as system B, only B replies with an acknowledgement in this case, and then the primary device sends its data, and then ultimately this data is acknowledged. Students, poll function is used by the primary device to actually solicit the transmission from either of its secondary devices. So in this case, the secondary has got something to send to primary, but still it will be polled by primary. So primary keeps on polling each one of those devices. So for example, in this case, the primary polls station A. Station A replies with a no acknowledgement, means I have got nothing to send. Then the primary polls station B. Station B sends the data, and then primary acknowledges. And students, after that, the primary will again poll A if A and B are the only two stations that we have on this particular shared medium. And this process goes on.